Hello, welcome to Moodle for Training and Professional Development. We're using Moodle as a learning management system for training and development courses. I've put together several courses. Here's Success in the Workplace, Conflict Management, Writing for Human Relations Professionals, and also Interview Skills. We will be focusing on success in the workplace as an example. And you'll see that I've already built it out, but that will help us save time, and also we'll go in, look at the different settings, and as we do so, we'll make changes, and you will learn as I guide you through it. So in this case, we will be reviewing the goals and objectives of the course, and we will also learn how to use the interface and all the different activities. And then finally, we'll look at assessment and also course management. So in this training course, you will be able to develop a course and administer it for your organization's training and professional development and even workplace enrichment. So welcome. (1.2) You may be wondering about hosting your course in Moodle. Well, there are a number of options. You can download Moodle and host it on your own server, or you can use a service and have cloud hosting. I've selected Moodle2.com and it's free. Now, in this case, it does come with a price. There are ads. And if you don't want to have the ads in this area and on the side and speckled throughout your course, kind of like in Facebook, if you want to eliminate ads, you have to pay a little bit. The nice thing, though, is that if you pay the monthly fee, you have no ads. Also, it's a donation, and also you can have several courses. So here is Success in the Workplace, one of 4 I've started and put together in this Moodle 2 account. (1.3) Making changes and editing your course is quite important. So let's get started by learning how to turn editing on and off. Notice we're in the course Success in the Workplace. Now let's take a look at this icon, this little button. On this radio button, let's click Turn Editing On. Now, once we turn it on, we will notice that things will change. The radio button goes to Turn Editing Off. But more compellingly, what we see is a number of changes here. So, for example, you now have the opportunity to scroll down and you see a few key little icons. And these are all live once you've turned editing on. So, for example, you can turn the edit summary on and you will have a chance to edit the summary either in what you see is what you get or in HTML. (1.4) Adding a new course. To add a new course, we need to go back to Home. This is Home for your account, not for the individual course. So we're clicking on Home. We're here. Now, let's go to Settings and scroll down. And let's go to Site Administration. Click the arrow. Now let's scroll down more and we get to Courses. Click on Courses and let's do Add Edit Courses. So we're adding a course. Now notice we have course categories. We have Miscellaneous, we have 3 courses in that, and we have Professional Development. So we can either add a new category and then put the course in there, or we can add a new course and put it within an existing category. So let's say that we want to add a new course. We want to put it in Professional Development. And we type the name here, the short name here, and anything in red with an asterisk you must fill out. So the course ID, course summary, etc. are optional. We will go into the other details in configuring the course itself later. (1.5) So let's say that we don't really want to add a new course. We want to edit an existing course. So let's go to our course categories. We have 3 miscellaneous, and let's choose one to edit. Let's change Writing for Human Relations Professionals and click on it. We can add it and edit this way. We can also edit the title here, settings, and we can also make more changes in this way. But let's click on Edit the Course, Edit the Settings, and this is how you make the decision to change it to, say, Human Resources Professionals. And keep in mind, we will edit on the course level in a different screen. So let's change the description, Human Resources Professionals. And here's a big change. We decided we do not want to organize it by topics. We want to organize it so that this is a 4-week course. So let's put weekly format. We can put a date. We want it to start, say, in 2015 or 2017. And we want news items. And we also want different types. But here's how many weeks. 4 weeks. (1.6) Well, we're setting up a course and we have changed our minds. Instead of having a weekly format with 4 weeks, we decided to go with topics. So here we're going to change and go to a topics format. And we just have decided we want to have, say, 8, because then if we want to have an 8-week course, we can. And if we want to have a 4-week course, we can do 2 topics per course. Now we save changes. And then we're now able to change the topics. So to add or edit the topics, we can use the default section name, which is just topic name, or we may want to have something. So unclick it. See, if it's clicked, you can't change it. But if you unclick it, you can change the section name and say Introduction. Let's save it and go. Notice the topic now is Introduction. (1.7) So let's change the unit names and also change the overview. So let's go to the Edit Summary. And we can change, going to say, this is welcome, and scroll down, save changes. Now, to change the aspects of the news forum, you can also call it something else. So you can say this is, instead of a news forum, we can say announcements. And this will give you a chance to make changes. So here we have general news and announcements, and we can add a new topic. Important. And then here is the message. So here we go. Let's go ahead and save it. And keep in mind that everything that I am putting here is changeable. So it's just a point of departure. But I wanted you to know, like, when you're at the course screen and you're at the very beginning and you want to be able to put in announcements and then have people respond, it's easy to do so. So let's just see how it works. Thank you. (1.8) We're going to look at the course Success in the Workplace, and we're going to examine learning objectives and course objectives. So notice we have the course objective at the beginning. We put it in the introduction, upon successful completion of the course, etc. Okay, that can always be changed. Now we have topics, because this course is organized according to topics. Notice that every topic has a learning objective as well. So each one has a learning objective that's a meta objective. And when we go to the unit, we can see that the learning objective has subsidiary objectives as well that will help you develop content as well as assessments to make sure that your learners are able to demonstrate competence. So notice we have bullet points: explain, list, predict, develop, etc. These can be modified by changing the text in the edit summary. (1.9). In this unit, we're going to talk about finalizing the topic learning objectives and then using those to plan content. So as you recall, in this course, Success in the Workplace, we have an overall learning objective for the course, and then we have different topics, and each topic has learning objectives. Now the question is, in what way do we organize the content and how do we develop the learning objectives so that we can measure whether or not a student has been able to master the content? Well, let's take a look at Bloom's taxonomy. It's a really good way to go about doing it. Benjamin Bloom was an educational psychologist who developed classification levels that corresponded to levels of intellectual behavior, and this has to do with the cognitive domain. So in this version, we're looking at the base of the pyramid as being the most basic. So if you're remembering, you can define, duplicate, list, etc. Understanding, applying, analyzing, evaluating, and at the top of the pyramid is creating, which is the most complex. Now notice each one of these corresponding categories has a number of verbs that go along with them, and they can help you develop your learning objectives and to decide exactly how best to develop assessments. So for example, if we're at creating, which is at the top of the pyramid, we can do something like assemble a project, construct something, create a project, design, develop. It's a great place for portfolios. Whereas on the very base, on the very introductory level, we would like to just do things like list, define, duplicate, identify, basic things. So the key is to go from the basic to the most complex in that order. (1.10). I'm going to edit the learning objectives of the second unit, communications. So looking down, overall learning objective is to establish good communications. So we want to explain, list, predict, develop a communication approach. We'd also like to do something like create a plan. So create a communication plan as a group project. So we'll save that, and notice we put create. Recall we do that at the very end because it's at the highest level of cognitive domain in Bloom's taxonomy. To refresh your knowledge, notice that at the very beginning, at the base of the pyramid, we have remembering. So that would start out with tasks that have to do with identifying and defining. Then we move up so that we apply the knowledge. And then finally, at the end, we have to look at things like creating. And those involves many times working with a group and a kind of portfolio or a project. So it's a pyramid, but it's also a building block approach. Moodle 1.11. So somewhere along the way, you probably came to realize that we are working in Moodle 2.3. Notice it's the nice navigation bar, the editing, the different icons. These are characteristic of Moodle 2.3. But you may not be using a server or hosting service that has 2.3. If that's the case, you may be in 1.9, or you might be in this brave new world of 2.4, which is quite exciting. But how do you get help if you need it in any of these versions of Moodle? Well, help is here in the form of Moodle Docs. So notice the URL, docs.moodle.org. So we go there, and here we have Moodle documentation by release. 2.4 is the most recent as of today, and then you can go back as far as 1.9. And there's English, German, Japanese, and other languages too, which is extremely helpful. And this really is one of the reasons that Moodle is so popular. So if you need help in Moodle, help is here in Moodle Docs. (2.1) So let's recall how to turn editing on. Let's turn on editing and let's review the icons and how to get started. So scroll down and recall that if we want to make any changes in the summary, we click the little asterisk looking icon, and that is how to edit the summary. Now if we want to edit this news item, we mouse over this and we click on the icon. And recall this is a news forum that we have called announcements. So if we want to make sure that we have a chance for people to ask questions and introduce themselves, we can add a new topic. So let's add a topic. Ask a question. Here is a place to ask questions. Then we scroll down and we post. And you can also mail the post to people in the group so that they know when something has either been changed or added to the discussion. So here's a chance to put a general announcement area and a help desk area at the very beginning of the course. (2.2) Adding activities. Right now we've decided that we need to add some activities to our now bare bones course, Writing for Human Resources Professionals. So let's click on the course, and we notice we've put announcements in the news forum, and we have an introduction, but there's not too much else. We haven't put topics or anything. But we want to, at this point, take a look at what we can do in our introduction. So let's look at add an activity. So we have assignments and attendance, certificate, choice, database, forum. There are many different things that you can do. There's a glossary, hot potatoes, lesson, questionnaire. And I would recommend starting with a forum. So we can put in a forum, which gives people a chance to ask questions. So this is the forum name, and we'll just say, do you have any questions? Post your questions here. You can also put together a student lounge, any type of thing. And then we do want to display the description on the course page. So let's click this. It's easy to forget to do that, and then you think, gee, what is this about? Why isn't my description coming up? So here it is. And the next thing is to add threads. (2.3) The news forum and how to add a topic. So we've started with the introduction. Do you have any questions? Post your questions here. So how do we do that? Let's click on the underline. Okay, check it out. Add a new discussion topic. So where is the timeline? So here's the topic. Where's the timeline? Post here if you have questions about the timeline. And then scroll down and post. Now, with that, people who are in the class can respond, ask questions, etc. And you can also go in and modify it. You have 30 minutes to delete it all together, but you can make significant changes. (2.4) So what we're going to do in the unit on excellence is add an article on leadership. So we're going to update a URL. We have the screen here. So what I'm going to do is show you where you can find directories of open access journals and how to use those with your course, because these are open access, very useful. So we're wanting to do something on leadership. So in the search box, I'm going to type leadership. And then when I get the results, I scroll down and I can look at the different leadership journals. So here's one that's been around for a while, Advancing Women in Leadership. So click on that and we can find different articles. So here's the effective stereotype threat in the interview performance of women. And Gary Latham is one of the authors. He's very well known, so that's a really good article. So we're going to click and copy the PDF. So when we edit the URL, we put the external URL, we just click the link, copy and paste the link here. And then I'm going to fill in the details later. This is just a placeholder, and I will also fill in the details of the name later. But for now, since I'm just finding the articles, I'm going to put in the URL, and then I'm going to save and return to the course. (2.5) We're going to add video, and we're going to add a link plus embed. So let's go to Goal Setting Video in our module on Excellence, and let's click on the icon that corresponds to Update. So click here, and in the meantime, we're going to queue up and decide which video we want to import from YouTube. I have to select from, and as we do this, we are going to look at adding the link plus the embedded text. So before we get started, let's click on the goal setting and let's click on HTML so we can add the HTML embed. So let's go here on YouTube, go to share, and if you scroll down, you'll notice that there's an option, embed. You'll see the embed. So let's go ahead and copy the text or the script, and let's put it between the paragraph, and let's go ahead and put that, and then we will click Update. And then, as you'll see, there is the video. We may want to do another one as well. We can do the same thing here. We just go to Share, and we click on Embed, and copy the text, edit, go back to HTML, and put in a new paragraph, and close the paragraph. Then we click Update, and notice we've also put the external URL from the website itself. So we click on Share, and notice that you can share this video. So that's the entire URL for that. You can also share the entire stream if you want to, but in this case we just want to share that link. So let's click Update and save, return to the course. (2.6) You may have a need to add your own graphics or videos in your course, and one good place to access is Flickr, especially if you have a Flickr stream. So I have one, so I will go to it. And I want to illustrate the process of writing, and that it's an anytime, anyplace type of proposition. So I can either, I'm looking at this is a good photograph, really like the chipmunks, but, or I can look at video, and here I am in the Texas Panhandle and illustrating the fact that we can basically, with mobile learning, write anytime. But let's go with the video or the graphics. So one good way to pull graphics is to use the lightbox function. And as we do that, we can right click and we can see I've got all rights reserved. Now we click here in the photo stream, copy. So we're clicking and copying the URL. We go back, scroll down, and add a resource. In this case, it's a URL. And as we do so we'll just say photo in office and writing and thinking. We can expand this later. Now scroll down, and where it says content external URL, we paste the link, the URL. Now we can basically save and return to course. And notice that we will see is not an embedded graphic. Because it's not embedded, we will see that it is a link. So here is the link, photo in office. We click on it, and here we have to click again. Here it is. So easy, right? (2.7) So we've added a link to a Flickr image, but we want to change it. So let's go to Success in the Workplace, and let's identify where we have our Flickr photo link. Here it is. So let's say that we want to change it. So let's click on Edit Summary, and let's go through and look at the link we want to change. So here it is. Let's go ahead and open it. We can open it in a new window. And as we do so, let's go ahead and share. Now, we already have the link, but we'd like to embed it. So let's just grab the code, select all, and let's copy it. And now we'll go back here, and we will edit the HTML. So let's go ahead and start a new paragraph so it's nice and clean. Let's go ahead and add the code. And let's close the paragraph. And let's hit update. And you can see that we have the link. Now we have the embed. So here I am next to an astronaut in Houston at a conference or convention. It was a lot of fun. So let's save the changes and let's see how it looks. So now we have the Flickr resource. We have a link. And we also have the embedded image. (2.8) I'd like to add audio content, an MP3, in my course, and I'd like to add the Prince, Machiavelli. So I've already done this. What I did is I went to add a resource, and I added a URL. Now I'd like to, and I did that from LibriVox. You can go to LibriVox.org, and everything is in the public domain. Volunteers read the content. I searched on The Prince by Machiavelli, and there were a number of different versions. And notice you can also link to the Gutenberg eText, Wikipedia, etc. So I did that, and now I would like to go ahead and modify this. So I'm going to click on Update, and as you can see, if you scroll down, I've added the URL to the Prince, to the entire file, and then someone can download the MP3 files. And I'd like to point out too that earlier we had an image that I added from my Flickr stream. Because it's my course and I'm the owner of that, it was totally okay. But other times it's not necessarily okay if it's a copyrighted content. So that's why it's so nice to have LibriVox and the public domain. Now we want images. And can we just go any place and get images? So let's go ahead and add an image. And we're going to get that image from Wikimedia Commons. So I've added the search term Machiavelli here, and this is what I've come up with. So I kind of like this one, it's cute. So here I'm going to right-click to obtain the image location. I'm copying that. I'm going back to put in the image URL. And now I hit insert, and I want to say OK. Even though, and it's asking me, do I want to add a description? No, I'll do that later. So at this time, what I do now is I click update, and later I'll go back and change the sizing, etc. But just for now, I'm just inserting the picture. So here we have a very nice attention-getting image of Machiavelli to direct us to the prints where we can access if we click. We click here, and there it is. It's a link to a portal page for audio resources. So let's go back. Let's review the MP3 file. Here's the link to the resource. We have the image, and there it is. (3.1) This entire section is dedicated to different types of course content, and it's all about populating your course with content. So let's look at the different types of content. We'll talk about readings, audio, video, different kinds of graphics, but let's focus in on different types of texts and reading. So first of all, let's remember we talked about the Machiavelli, the Prince. And we decided that we would incorporate an MP3 file and an image of Machiavelli. So we also would like to have a link to his books. So what we'll do is we'll add an activity, and would like to do it in the case of a link. So let's just go ahead and put a URL, add a resource, and we are going to use Project Gutenberg. So we'll go to Project Gutenberg, and then here's the search page. I've already done the search, so I don't really need to do it again, but this is what I came up with. So we have HTML, also linked to EPUB or Kindle. So let's look at HTML. Here we have the text. So copy and paste the link, and we'll put it back in editing the URL. So notice here's the external URL. We'll put the Prince ebook and description. I'm going to include the description on the course page, so I click here and I scroll down and I save and return to the course. If I want to have ebooks as well as articles, I can do that as well, and we'll discuss that at a later time. (3.2) Audio. We found Machiavelli's The Prince in an MP3 file, so let's click on it because we want to change the description. So we want to say we found it at LibriVox, and notice we've put the external URL. Now what do we mean by LibriVox? LibriVox is a great location and source for different types of audio that are in the public domain, and you may search and you can find them and link to them. So here we have the Prince. We may want to have things in addition to LibriVox. So let's say that we would like to have an audio from NPR, All Things Considered, and we want to have it on leadership. Well, I've typed leadership in the search bar in NPR, National Public Radio, and I've come up with several options. So let's say that we want to talk about the history of self-immolation. We can listen to the story, so we can either download it and upload it, or we can just simply link to the story and hope that it stays okay for a while. Keep in mind this is free. You can also look at BBC News and their special reports. These are our videos, but there are also audio. Or we may want to ask our learners to download a book from audible.com, which is not free, but it's a good text. So those are some of your audio options. (3.3) Let's add some video. So we're in Success in the Workplace in the unit Technology. and we'd like to add some video. Let's look at two main sources. One, YouTube. So I've looked at YouTube selections and I've selected this one. So I want to go ahead and add it. I'm going to both add the embed and also I'm going to add share this video, which is just a simple URL. So when you do that, you come out here and notice if I go to this, I can see what it is. So I can click the player, and if I want to edit it, I click update, and I'm able to change the embed by changing the HTML. So notice I've just gone ahead and embedded the source editor, and I update it. And another thing key thing is to go ahead and click display description and also click on the different options that allow you to make it visible. Now you may want to do something that's live or have something else. I would recommend Ustream. Ustream has the options of allowing you to stream live, which is useful if you're doing synchronous things, and you can also archive it. .4. We are continuing to talk about types of content to put in your course. So right now we would like to put in a map, and we'll put it in communications. So we want to add a resource, and it will be a URL. So let's put that here. So open the window. And we're going to do the Library of Congress. So the Library of Congress has a lot of resources. Here's a very interesting map of Lewis and Clark's track across the western portion of North America. And if you enlarge it, you can see it's really quite interesting. And we have an opportunity to either copy it, a GIF, which is quite small, a JPEG, a larger JPEG, and an even larger one, which would give you lots of detail because it's 5.1 megabytes. But what we want to do is just simply link to it. So we will put this small little tiny link. We'll copy and paste. But before we do that, let's go back to the Library of Congress and ask ourselves whether or not we have permission. So when we go back, let's look at rights and access. And notice that we may use this for purposes of education and research purposes. So that's very positive. So we aren't going to redistribute it or sell it. We're just using it for educational purposes. So let's go back to editing the URL, and we'll just put the title here. And we'll expand it later. Copy the URL, choose a link, and then save. .5. So we're continuing to talk about different ways to add content. And using licensed content is often a choice. So we can go to Stock Exchange, which is one of the places where you can get stock art. And it's possible to go ahead and do a search here. Search in the search box. I searched on leadership. And what I got are the results, premiums that I could license this image for as little as $1. Also, there's free content, which is here in different places. So that's one way to get images. Another way is to go to Flickr, where I have a photo stream. So I'm going to use my own image that I've uploaded, and I'm going to embed the code. Instead of grabbing the link, I'm going to go ahead and copy and paste embed code. So I've highlighted it, and I'm copying it, and I'm going to a course in Moodle, and I decided I'm going to edit the summary. So click on the little wheel, asterisk, or whatever, and I look at the HTML, and I've decided to make it, put it in the middle. So I put code, and I copy it, paste it to the end paragraph, in a little code. I update, and then take a look. See, there it is. So what I do is my nice picture of Robert Owen in Manchester, England. I go ahead and save changes, and then I scroll down and take a look. It's very nice. I can add captions later. (4.1) Conditions for learning. Cognitive psychologists and instructional psychologists often say that it's important to engage the learner. In other words, make the learner care about the course itself. So how do we do that? How do we get them engaged, emotionally connected? One way is to connect to personal experience and also to intrigue people. So to get started, we can add in our introduction a couple of did you know quirky questions that make people think. So here we have, did you know 100% of all successful people are in this condition? What is the condition? Then you have them click for the answer. The key is to make them want to see it. So where do you put that? Put that in the beginning, and notice that if you want to change it, we just click Edit Summary, and here we have the opportunity to change the answer. So it doesn't have to just go to Yahoo, and it can actually be a substantive answer. The main thing is to engage, intrigue, pique interest. (4.2) Engaging with personal experience. So one way to get learners to really care about what they're doing and to be engaged and to have sufficient interest to establish conditions for learning is to share personal experience. So one way to do it is to start with sharing your experience and then encourage others to share theirs. So I'm using a forum here. We can change the title if we want to, Technology and the Workplace, My Story, and now we can update it and we can change the prompt. So here's the introduction. Here's a place to share stories. What happened in your life? What happened to you? And then as we go ahead and update it, then if we want to add a prompt, we scroll down to that location. We go to here, and notice we can add a discussion topic. And this can be my story. And then you can also put discussion about my story to be expanded later. And then press Post to Forum. So it's a must-read, intriguing, and encouraging of others to relate it to their own life experience. (4.3) Let's talk about assessment and quiz. So let's say that you want to do a quiz about communications. Let's go through and add an activity. Now look at the different types of options that you have. And there are certain things that look like they would be easier to use than others. Like notice you can use hot potatoes, and also you have options of quiz and real-time quiz. Honestly, I would avoid those three options, and I would just simply use choice. It's much more intuitive and a lot more fun to use, actually. So let's talk about the best animal to bring to work. And here's the description. Add it in later. Maybe we want displayed on the course page, so we click here. And we do not want to limit the number of responses. So here are the different options. Option 1 is a dog. Option 2, cat. Option 3, cobra. Option 4, Nile monitor lizard. So these are the best animals to bring to work. And then finally, hamster. Okay, so we can add more fields if we want. We can restrict answering the time period. We can limit settings. And we can put things in groups. We can put separate groups. Quite a bit of flexibility. And we can also provide settings restricting access. So let's go ahead and save and return to the course. Now, so we save and return to the course. We notice that we have the choice, which is in a question mark. Now, if we want to change it, we can click here and you can actually take the quiz. So we can save the choice. And we can also add different types of feedback, which we will do in the next video. .4 We're talking about engagement. And engagement and assessment are often connected because assessment is motivating, and especially if there's feedback. So we've added a quiz, and now we need to engage our learners by letting them start testing their knowledge. So let's click on quiz, and let's go ahead and notice we have not added questions yet. So we're going to edit the quiz. And here is where we talk about the maximum grade and number of questions. Let's go ahead and add a question. And notice you can have different types of questions. So we could say multiple choice. So put multiple choice. And when we do that, it gives us a chance to put the question here. I'll just put X, Y, Z, a random number. And then question text. And here is a place for feedback. So, feedback. Then also in the choices is if you give the choices, then you need to make sure that on the positive, on the right choice gives a positive grade. So let's say 100%, and this is choice 1, that's the answer, and here's feedback. Again, we'll put that later. And then here we add in choice, grade, none, because it would be the incorrect one, and feedback. So we continue to do this for all of them, for each choice. And then you can have multiple choices. I recommend not doing more than 4 or 5. And here is where you can save, and you can also give hints. It's pretty robust. And you can save changes. I'm going to cancel because I'm going to start over. .5 So I want to engage learners by connecting to their personal experience. And I live in Oklahoma in the middle of a drought. Notice right in the worst part of it. And I imagine that quite a few people who are learners are also, if not directly affected by the drought, indirectly because of the higher food prices, etc. So I've decided to add the NOAA U.S. Seasonal Drought Outlook graphic. Now we talked about how to adjust this. I'd like to make it a little bit larger. How do I do it? Well, I do it by going down here and clicking Edit Summary, because I put it in the summary. Now, I have embedded this by uploading to Insert Image, Edit Image. Now, do I really want to edit using this, or would I rather edit using the HTML editor? I sort of prefer the HTML source because it works more effectively. So now I can look in the code, and I see where I've added it. And now at this point it has height of 346, width 450. Now the only tricky part is I need to make sure that the dimensions are basically continuing to be proportional. So instead of 450, let's put 500. And instead of 346, let's put 390. So that's more or less same dimensions, proportional. Notice that when we click Update, it changes. So it's a little bit wider, but we don't want it to overwhelm frame. So let's go and save changes, and we'll see what it looks like. So we're scrolling down and scrolling and scrolling. Very nice. It's still there, but somewhat wider and taller. Very good. .1 assignment. So what we're going to do is add an assignment, and we do that by going to Activity. And let's look at online text. And the reason we do that is because that's the type of assignment that we want people to do. So assignment name is Analyzing a Short Story. And the description of the assignment is, please upload your analysis of the short story, Wolfie, or instead of upload, please submit analysis of the short story, Wolfie, and let's see, it should be at least 250 words and should follow criteria outlined in the syllabus. So now we put description on the course page, and then we make it available at certain times. We have a due date. I'm giving everybody 1 day of availability, and it's due the very day it's assigned. That's okay, right? And then here we have grading method, simple direct grading, but you can put in a rubric if you like, and the grade categories uncategorized. So we do want people to be able to resubmit. So let's say yes, and let's email an alert to the teacher. Now we have no groups, but we could, if we wanted, have visible groups. And we could also restrict access, but we've decided not to. So let's go ahead and save it and return to the course. Now, do we want to be able to attach a file? Well, we can't really do that in this, so you have to keep that in mind. So let's save and display. So it's saving. Now, here you can view the assignment upgrade tool. We don't need to do that, but okay, here is your analysis. It's now available. Now, you haven't submitted anything, so you say we want to add a submission. Now, notice, since we chose the box where people type in here is my analysis, it's here, and it's not uploading a file. So let's just go ahead and save changes. So now, if we want to modify the assignment, let's go back to Workplace Success, and we look down here and see the short story assignment, analyzing a short story. Here are the directions. Now we can modify it if we like. But let's say we just want to go to it again. Let's go here, and we can view our submitted assignment. And here's the one we could view. We click on it. And here's the analysis. So this gives you a chance, if you like, to grade it. So the assignment's pretty useful, and it's very straightforward. .2 Checklist. We want to develop a checklist to help our students know what they need to do for the class. So we're going to Technology, and we are going to add an activity, and we've added checklist, which is here. Now that we've added it, now we want to edit it and update. So click there, and we modify what to do list. Then we scroll down and add, save, and return to course. .3 Choice. So choice is a good way to get people engaged. So let's do that. Let's add an activity and come to choice. Click on it. See what happens. Now, say choose your pet. And then here is a way to share your favorite pet. That's a very strange prompt, but we can always change that later. Okay, just display description on the page. Now, option. Okay, so option 1, cat, dog. Option 3, iguana, Nile monitor lizard, interesting pets, and finally, furry. Furry, I would think ferret. Okay, so let's look at restricting answering to a time period. No, we want to keep it open. Display mode, horizontally. Okay. Let's show the results to the students after they answer. That's always wonderful. Let's keep it anonymous. Do we want choice to be updated? No. Choice is really a survey, kind of a survey of sorts. Pretty simple tool, really. Okay, so let's save and return to the course. Now, what does this look like? Scroll down. See the question mark. Choose your pet. Now I click on it. And here they are. So I'm going to say my favorite pet would be a dog, even though I'm very tempted to say Nile monitor lizards. But the problem is they're hideous. So I don't really believe that. Okay. So now we can display. See, now it's displayed to me since I just clicked it. Now, if I go back and I pretend to be a different student, will this work? Let's check it out. So now I'm going to yield to my evil impulse and say that my favorite pet is a Nile monitor lizard. But it won't let me because I have already answered, and one person cannot answer more than once. So there you have choice. .4 lesson. So a lesson is very useful. It's kind of a building block of Moodle. So let's go down and add the activity of lesson. Lesson is in the menu. Notice how many wonderful things we have now. So let's click on lesson. Now, lesson comes up, and the lesson of this is, the name of it is Wolfie. A lesson in leadership and ethics. So we have time limit. We don't have that. We don't have any availability. We're giving 4 numbers of answers. Grade is 100%. So, practice lesson? No. Custom scoring? Yes. Retakes allowed? Let's say yes. Handling of retakes? Use maximum. And flow control, we don't need to worry about that. Now, file pop-up? Yes. So let's add a file. You can drag and drop, or we can browse. So let's just look at an attachment. Let's pick out Wolfie. And look, open it. We upload this file. We save it as Wolfie. Upload the file. So there it is. Now, dependent on nothing, time spent, etc. Now let's go ahead and save and return to the course. Now that we've returned to the course, let's scroll down and see what the lesson looks like. The lesson is here. So let's just go ahead and open it and see what it looks like. So what we want to do first is we can go ahead and preview the lesson. Preview doesn't have much at this point because we need to import some questions. So if we import the questions, we can go to either importing them here from Moodle Docs, or we could add a cluster. We can also add a cluster, and let's just go ahead and edit this. Page contents, and we'll just put cluster and more. Let's save page. Now let's go back and add a content page. Page title, Wolfie and Friends. Who is a real leader? And then let's go ahead and put content 1, describe leadership. And we don't need to jump anything. Okay, next one, content 2, describe followers. And then content 3, describe ethical leadership. Sadly. Okay, so now let's go and let's preview. So notice that you can go to who is a real leader, and then we describe leadership, describe followers, describe ethical leaders. And you can't find the lesson pages because we haven't actually uploaded them. However, those are the tabs for them. So that's how they would look, and that's how you add them. So this gives you a chance to at least figure out how to go about building a lesson. And the lesson is a way to display content. And it's an essential building block in your online course. 5.5 quiz. You may wish to add a quiz for assessment. So let's go to communication again and notice that it's the same procedure. We can go to add an activity and scroll down, and here is quiz. Click on quiz, and as we wait for quiz, you think about the type of quiz that you'd like to add and the name of it, the description. Be sure to click the box if you want the description to appear on the course page. And again, you have a lot of different options and different layout, question behavior. Often you can shuffle or randomize the options or the questions. Then also there are a number of ways to upload questions. So you have the opportunity also to provide feedback, which definitely helps with the learning process for reinforcement and also to help students really understand what the correct answer is if they happen to get it wrong. So the quiz is, again, like many of the different elements within Moodle, relatively robust. Highly recommend it. .6 Calendar. Calendar is probably one of the most ubiquitous elements in an online course, and you might think it's found here in activities, but that's not the case. Instead, let's go to upcoming events, and here we can go to calendar. We go to the calendar, takes us to a place where we can add content. Just click here for a new event. So when you do that, a new event pops up. Put the title of the event, and then you can say the type of the event, which relates to the course or the user or the site itself. You can also have the duration of the event, whether or not it repeats. Also, it's possible to color code it, and you would do that back in the other screen. But there are all different types of options, and calendar is probably the thing that you should set up first, along with the checklist. .1 Assessments. What we've looked at earlier were elements and content to add to the course. Now we are talking about assessment. As we start building assessment, we should definitely review course learning objectives. So remember that we have included learning objectives at the very beginning and then also in every unit. So for example, in communications, we have learning objective, that's establish good communications, and then a bullet point with points that are measurable and all of the verbs tie to Bloom's taxonomy. So they are in ascending levels of order of difficulty. So we start with explain or list, and then we end up with create. So we scroll down, we can also think about the different kinds of activities that will actually measure whether or not a person has achieved their learning objective or course goals. So among these, we have a number of different types of assessments, which include things like choice, quiz, portfolios. It just depends on what you'd like to do and also how you'd like your students to demonstrate competency and mastery. (6.2) Choice. So we looked at choice in an earlier unit as an engager. Okay, we can ask questions, and that's a good way to test knowledge and pique people's curiosity. However, now we're talking about using choice as multiple choice as a way to assess knowledge. And it's especially good for things like identification of terms and definition. So let's look at the seasonal drought outlook and this sort of concept that we have within the social media unit. And notice the learning objective includes identify social media used in the workplace. And we'll tie it together and use choice to do that. So we click here, and we can use choice fairly easily in identification because we can list the topic and concept, which could be the drought. We could put the title here, describe the concept and the content being assessed, and then display the description on the course page by clicking here. And then we have the different choices or the options. So these can be filled out and uploaded here. So at the end, we scroll down after we've completed all the fields and click Save and Return to Course. (6.3) So let's go to a course, and let's say that we want to collaborate. We want to add something that will test the higher levels of Bloom's taxonomy, which would be something like create. A good way to do that is using Workshop. Workshop is good because it's also very collaborative. So as we go through, we look at this and we can give the workshop a name. So it could be, since this is a writing class, it could be a collaborative report. We can make the description here. Click this box to display the description on the course page. And then we have a chance to look at different workshop features. So the nice thing is that you can put example submissions for practice. You can assess the student work of others. You can create a portfolio by assessing your own work. Then you can also have different grading settings. But a workshop is a fantastic way to encourage collaboration and also to create a portfolio. (6.4) In an earlier unit, we talked about setting up the portfolio, and it's a pretty good thing to use. Remember that the icon looks like this, so you can see that here. We've had an example in our conflict management unit on conflict resolution, so it's more like we're using the portfolio for a workshop. So remember how we set it up. We went ahead and let's go ahead and click on Edit and see. Notice, remember, we set up the workshop description, the name, etc., and different features. And we made sure that we let the students assess the work for others and assess their own. And then, but we did not have example submissions. Then we also went ahead and put together submission settings and assessment settings and the different kinds of settings. So then, after we did that, we saved and returned it to the course. So once we went back to the course, we want to go back and let's scroll down and look again and see where we are. So let's take a look at what it looks like. So here, if you are in the instructor and you're logged in, then you will see in the admin side that you can set up the workshop description. We've done that. We provided instructions for submission. We edited the assessment form. Now we need to provide instructions. We did that. Now let's click on Submit Your Work and also Allocate Submissions. We can do that too. So we click on here. We haven't submitted our work. So we would have to go through, but you can see the instructions are there. So let's go back. We can also allocate submissions. So here are the people in our class. We have Martha Washington, Abigail Adams, and myself, admin user. And there's nothing to review. But we can go ahead and manually allocate, or we can randomly allocate, or we can schedule allocate. So there are a lot of ways to manage the way that people work with each other. And then after we've gone through the assessment phase, then there's a grading and evaluation phase. So in this case, since we haven't turned in anything yet, we don't need to calculate the grades or assessment grades. However, we can provide essentially a rubric of sorts. So we can provide at least a conclusion of the actual event. So that's kind of useful. Now, as you can see, there are two different ways to go inside the portfolio. And one is to enter it by clicking on the icon. We can also edit the title. We can also go through and do the update approach, which is fairly effective. And if we need to delete it, we can. But I find that using the portfolio for a workshop is just absolutely outstanding. It's a very helpful thing to do. It encourages collaboration, and it's fairly easy to administer, and it's straightforward for the students. So it's one of the best tools, I think, that is out there right now in Moodle. So here we have Machiavelli using this for conflict management guide. (7.1) Discussion Forum. So the discussion forum is found in the forum in the Add an Activity menu. Then, once you've set up the forum, if you want to update it or change it, you click on Update. So notice the icon that signifies the forum. And as we click and we wait for the screen to appear, we really think about the different threads that you want to add. And as you do that, notice here are opportunities to put in the forum name and the introduction. Then you can set up the different fields that you give permissions. Then, if you want to add something to the forum, the key is to go back and to click on the forum itself and then add. So if we return back to the course, then we go back to the forum and we just click here. And this is where we add the actual discussion topics. So notice we've already added one, and if we want to add a response to it, then we can just click that and add a reply. Or if you want to add a different topic, you can click the Add a New Discussion Topic, chiclet, or icon. So it's fairly simple, very flexible. (7.2) Glossary. We're talking about collaboration strategies, and the reason we're doing that is because people learn from each other, and one of the best ways to assure that learning takes place in an online course is to encourage collaboration. So let's look at a glossary. So as we scroll down, we will look and think about where a good place to include a glossary might be. And let's do it in conflict management. So notice here's the little icon that indicates glossary. And let's say that we want to update it so we can see where exactly we can make changes. So we can look at the pretty typical layout format. Then we scroll down and notice we can allow people to add to the glossary and comment on different entries. It's similar to a wiki, but this really more leads to something like flashcard types of things, whereas the wiki is a little bit more flexible. (7.3) Wiki. So one of the nice collaborative things we can do is to establish a wiki. So let's go through and let's show you where to do the wiki. So here we go, go down here, and we have a wiki. So the wiki starts launching, and so we put together a name, a description, same thing, we display the description on the course page, wiki settings, and we can make it collaborative. We have the first page name, and we could make groups if we want to. So we go ahead and, as is usual, we save and return to the course. Now I've already put together a wiki, so let's just go back, and I want to show you what it looks like once you've set it up. So here you can see this nice hash mark thing. That is the wiki icon, and I have success in the workplace, shared knowledge. So decided to click on it, and here we go. So this is what it looks like, and we're looking at it. We can view it. We have the tags, success examples, first name, and then examples of successful companies. Here's my list. Now I'm going to pretend that this is somebody else's entry, and I'm going to go in and I'm going to edit it, and I'm going to add another company. So I say Starbucks, Target, Wendy's, Whole Foods. How about, let's see, there's a convenience store that's really nice. It's called Quick Trip, so I put that in here. And then I'm going to go ahead and add another tag, and I'm going to say manage official tags. I'm going to add an official tag, and I'll say successful businesses. So adding the official tag. So that's done, and from there we will go ahead and click out of it. So exit by closing the window, and we'll just save. Okay, so now we have the wiki, and let's say I want to make a comment. Let's say first page comment. My comment is that I am thinking of retail when I add examples. So that's just a comment that helps people know what was on my mind. So comments are very helpful. It's creating the comment, and now we can go back and we can view what it looks like. So here we have everything. It's quite nice. So I highly recommend a wiki. It's not a bad idea also to be able to share files, images, etc. So you can add a file, you can edit a wiki file. There aren't any here, but you can upload. So you just drag and drop your file here, or upload something else like an image or something, which is good if you're looking at examples, say, of dog or breeds of dogs. So I can browse and look at pictures, or I'll go to my travel drive and see if I have any photographs. So I look down here, and guess what I do? So I have some photographs. So I just put Woods at Yaddo. I'll add name, and then upload. And here we have the file. So saving the changes. So now we've added a photograph to the wiki. So let's look at the wiki. And where do we see the files? The files are here, And if you want to see it, you just open it, you click on open, and you can see the picture of the woods at Yaddo in upstate New York. So that's like an example of how you could use a wiki. (7.4) Wiki. So let's add to the wiki that we put together for this unit. And notice this intriguing interlocking icon. That is the icon for the wiki. So we're talking about shared knowledge and success strategies. And what we want to do is to build a knowledge base of success strategies in the workplace. So we click on Update, and notice it has the same structure as other menu items or other templates. Then scroll down, and notice that we have the opportunity to give a lot of flexibility to how people collaborate. And they can either enter the entire activity themselves, or they can collaborate with others. Then, once that's set up, then we want to add to the wiki itself. Just click here, and then notice examples of successful companies. Here's my list: Starbucks, Target, Wendy's, Whole Foods. So notice that I've made it so that people might want to say, I'm not sure that I agree with those. So I could say, well, I'm not sure that, say, Wendy's is all that successful, or I want to redefine success. And so I would add up here, what I mean by success is, and then have a couple of criteria. And then you can also add additional companies. You can also have the opportunity to add tags. So many different ways to make this useful and fun, and just kind of make it a group activity in which you're thinking about ways to pull in other people. (7.5) Sometimes it's very useful to be able to have student-teacher conferences, different types of video conferences, and not have to use the built-in chat function, but just to be, or have lots of different logins, but to be able to piggyback on something like Skype. Well, Moodle does have a Skype activity, and it's nice because it's built in. So let's add the activity, Skype, and I'll just show you how it works. So we click on Skype, we go ahead and add it. Now, my Skype name is Beyond Utopia. So I'm going ahead and putting my Beyond Utopia Skype name, handle, or whatever they call it. And let's say, now we can Skype. And then let's look at the different modules. Pretty typical. Nothing remarkable. They're all the same, more or less. I mean, in terms of access, restrictions, etc. Now, we've added Skype. Now let's look for the familiar blue Skype logo. Here it is. So let's click on Beyond Utopia and see what we get. Now, we see, now we can Skype, and we see that we have a place to do it. But what we have to do now is update our Skype ID from our profile page. So let's go back to the profile page, and notice I have my name, my admin user. Okay, here's my email address, and then let's look at where we would put in our Skype. So let's scroll down here. I can put a user picture. I have not done that. Apparently I have no interests. No web page, no ICQ. Nothing. I've not entered in anything. I'm for the Spartan simple life. But here is a Skype ID. So I am Beyond Utopia. So I'm just adding that in here, and I'm updating my profile. Boom. Isn't that nice? So now I'm ready to be able to Skype. (7.6) So let's take a look at how we can do a webinar in Moodle. And this is kind of new, so I'm excited that Moodle 2.4 and also 2.3 offer Big Blue Button. So let's take a look. Let's go ahead and add Big Blue Button, which is open source web conferencing. So you don't have to do some of the 4 ones that are expensive. And then Big Blue Button is open source, and it's available outside of Moodle, but the nice thing is that it's available through Moodle also. So we added Big Blue Button, and we have these general settings. You can put a welcome message. Again, you probably would want to open it in a new window, and you have to wait till the moderator joins. And let's look at some of the other settings. I would highly recommend recording your webinar because you can archive it later, and people who miss the live event can go and be involved in the asynchronous. So you can have both. So let's go back. I've already set it up. So let's just go back and see where I've set it up. So let's go to Big Blue Button, and you will first be prompted once you set it up to go ahead and test your speakers and test your audio. I'm using a headset. I highly recommend that. And then also it'll allow you to test your speakers to see if you can hear it. So you test your microphone and your speakers. Now notice I'm logged in as an admin. And then to get started, I can watch a tutorial video. So as the moderator, I can watch this one, or I can watch the tutorial as the viewer. And one of the things I really like about Big Blue Button is it's a little bit like Adobe Connect or Omnovia, in that it has little tools that you can use. There's a pencil, a rectangle, circle, triangle, line, text. You go, what are these for? What they allow you to do is to circle and make when you're making your presentation. This will actually, when you start, what we see here is actually going to be a whiteboard. But then we also can raise our hands to show that we want to interact. But you can see as an administrator, you have the opportunity to interact with all these different tool sets. Then we can clear the page, and we can go back. We can select a color for our tools, etc. So there are a lot of different things we can do. In addition, you can chat with people while you're doing this. So you can just type in some chat, and then you can send it to no one really, because it's only going to the admin user. But see, here's a chance for you to either send it out to all the people, or you can also select a private chat. So I can chat privately with myself, it appears, since no one else is there. But we can have our other people go ahead and join. The other thing I really like about Big Blue Button is it's extremely easy to use. You can see who's online here. You can also change the settings. So you can lower all the hands. You can mute all, which is useful because if they have their headsets on too, then they can actually end up interfering. So notice you can also share your camera. So I can share my microphone. I can share my camera. I can turn on my camera. Here I am. Hi. I can turn it off now. Close. And it's very multifunctional. And the nice thing is that it is all completely free here within Moodle. So this is your Big Blue Button web conferencing app. Excellent, right? Thank you. Course management. So you've set up your course. You have a beautiful course, lots of graphics, lots of content, lots of assessments. Now we'd like people to use it. Now, do we sign people up in the course right now just from the course portal? No, actually we have to step back. We have to go back to Home in Moodle and keep in mind that we have to organize and add people for Moodle first and then for the specific course. So as we look at this, we need to go and essentially look at site administration. So we click and expand. Then we look and we find users. And granted, this is not intuitive, so isn't this great that we have demos? Then we can click on accounts, and isn't this great? This is where we can add a new user. So then once we add the user, then we can put that person in one course or multiple courses. So here are all the different fields to fill out, and creates a very nice database. (8.2) Gradebook. To access and set up the gradebook, we have to start at the front page. So here's the main menu and the settings. So let's scroll down. We go down to Site Administration. And if your site administration is minimized like that, you need to click it so that it opens up. And then you'll see grades. So click on it and we see Gradebook. So let's just review the different things that you'll need to do. First of all, let's go to General Settings. This gives you a chance to create the roles Manager, Course Creator, Student. In this case, we're only managing student grades, so we only keep students. And then we want to more or less keep most of the default settings, but you may want to change some of these things. For example, you may want to be able to export it into plain text file or an open document spreadsheet, not just an Excel file. So that's one area. Now let's look at grade category settings. If you click on that, you'll see that you have a number of ways to aggregate the grades. And you can do the simple weighted mean, or you could go ahead and aggregate or combine them by, say, pulling out the lowest grade or the highest grade, the mode of grades. I would recommend the simple weighted mean of grades because that's the way you're calculating the final assessment score. So one of these things, if you want to drop the lowest score, that's the one thing that I would say that a lot of instructors, and also keep the highest grade, you could do that. Let's go back to looking at grade scales and grade item settings. Grade item settings gives you a chance to look at the different types of options. So if you want to list them by grade to pass or ID number, you can do so. I'd say stay with the default to begin with. Also with scales, it gives you a chance to put in your standard scales and put in additional scales. Here's a new scale. And keep in mind that when you develop the scale, you have to delimit it by a comma. So if it's 1 to 10, you say 1, 10. Let's look at outcomes. You can add an outcome. So if you do add an outcome, you'll put it in there, and it's a description of the learning outcome. And that would go in the gradebook in addition to having it on your course page. Now finally, let's take a look at the report settings. Do you want a grades report, an overview? Let's just see what the grader report. It has scale, quick feedback. I think it's a very good idea to go ahead and include quick feedback, and it's built into the gradebook instead of having to send an email or put something else. So here are the different activity icons, grades. It's extremely detailed and flexible, variable. The default settings are for basically everyone. So once we have all this together, then we can actually take a look at grades and we will see how they look. So let's go back to the first part and look at the courses, and keep in mind that each of your courses, the grade book will be more or less the same. So if we go to Success in the Workplace, then we click on the course and go to the course. It's loading. And then if we scroll down and we see grades, we click on the grades and you'll have a chance. You can see the grader report and it reflects the different categories that you've customized. And this is the way the grader report looks. (8.3) Managing users. So remember, for users, we need to scroll down and we look at Site Administration. Then we click on Users, and then we add Accounts. And notice how many things we can do with users. You can browse a list of users, you can bulk user actions, upload, etc. You may add a new user individually. You can have user profile fields, cohorts. You can upload users and user pictures. Now, to look at how we can add someone to a course, let's click on a course. Here we are in Interview Skills. So here we have the current course, and we have settings, and let's click on Users. So if we want to add users, we can do so. We can look at enrolled users, enrollment methods, other users. So let's click on enrollment methods and let's look at manual. So we can add a user here. So there are many different ways to manage users. (8.4) Issuing certificates. So after your learners have completed the course successfully, they would probably like to have a certificate. Now, if you're using Moodle as your LMS, learning management system, in a MOOC, a massively open online course, obviously you'd like to have things to be as automated as possible. So you would have assessments or access to content, assessments, all of those things could be user-driven. And then, after the successful completion of the course, it would be nice to be able to generate a certificate. So let's go down the Add an Activity menu and let's click on Certificate. And this allows you to set up the certificate. Notice you can put in the certificate name, introduction, and also it allows you to be able to distribute the certificate, emailing teachers, others, etc. You can save the certificate or not, and you can even require a certain amount of time in the course before it's possible to print the certificate or issue it. Then you have all kinds of design options, different sizes, different orientation, different borders, etc. Fancy, nice. Different colors, watermarks. So essentially you have a lot of flexibility with the certificates that are available in Moodle. (8.5) At this point, we'd like to change our front page and basically customize it and configure it so that it reflects what and how we really are. So notice we're at the front page and we are scrolling down. We go to Settings and we go to Site Administration. So let's just go to the Appearance and let's go to Front Page. Click here and let's just do this front page settings. Now notice the full page name is Professional Development, but let's say that we really want to change it so that it reflects our organization. So we are the Professional Development Institute. So let's call Add Institute. And then for the short name for it, we did have Prof Dev, but let's just say PDI for Professional Development Institute. And then let's put a little greeting. Welcome to the Professional Development Institute. Then scroll down. Now, do we want to have a list of courses? Yes, we do. List of categories? Maybe. What do we want to have? Do we want to have news items, etc.? No, let's just leave it pretty straightforward. So front page items and logged in. Now we can have the maximum category depth. We can have a topic section. We can have news items that we can show, comments, and finally we can save the changes. So let's see what that looks like. Changes have been saved. So let's go back and let's close site administration and let's look at front page settings and let's just see what this says. So let's just edit settings and see if that's the same. Yes, it is. So notice you have two ways to get to the same thing. Now, what happens if you want to change the color or the background? We can do that also. In this case, we would go to the site administration page. We click on Appearance. We look at themes, etc., and media embedding. And we want to make sure that we have the right kind of plugins for everything, so we can make sure we click in and all that. YouTube, Flash animation, HTML. So often we'll leave Flash unchecked because it can be dangerous. Now let's look at our HTML settings, themes, calendar, and there are lots of different ways and options to do these things. So let's just go to courses. And notice we're at the teacher role, and we can put 20 courses per page. We can have courses with summaries and save those changes. So notice there are a lot of ways that you can customize the appearance of the courses. And you can even change doing cascading style sheets. You can change the navigation, orientation. You can add a blog. You can associate it with your blog. So there are lots of things you can do. The key is to think ahead and not make it too cluttered.